session, let's all just take a moment and just wherever you are, seated of course, close your eyes. And allow your focus to shift from the outer world to the inner world. Allow the breath to lengthen and deepen. Allow yourself to come back home. And as you exhale, allow yourself to let go. Let go of all of our false identities, all of the masks that we wear, the roles we play, the responsibilities, the boxes in which we put ourselves. Allow yourself to just breathe it out and let it go. And allow yourself to sink deeper and deeper into the core, the center, that capital T truth of who you are. That which is whole, that which is complete, that which is divine. And that which is the creative source of the entire universe. That source of life, of light, of all of creation that lies within each of us. Take just a moment and allow yourself to just be there. Ever so gently, whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Our most revered spiritual leaders, my divine, amazing, respected, Shakti-filled sisters on this panel, sisters and mentors. It's so beautiful to be here today with you all. Our panel is on Shakti and Prakriti, which I'll speak about in a moment, but the connection between the divine feminine and Mother Earth, the creation. And I remember when I was growing up in Los Angeles, my parents had some friends who lived in the mountains near Santa Cruz, who were Native American, of indigenous origin. And on one of the trips up there, I was a teenager, and I remember speaking with their daughter, who was a good friend of mine, and we had been friends since my childhood. And she was telling me about the ceremony that she went through every month, the ritual, on her moon cycle, on her menstrual period. And what that ritual entailed and what the ceremony involved. And without going into the details of it here, I was in awe. I was deeply envious that for those of us of Caucasian American heritage growing up in LA, that which was just a monthly hassle. For my sister of indigenous origin, it was a monthly sacrament. And I remember wishing so deeply that I too could be from a culture that gave me something in the earth to which to connect. And then, of course, as I grew, I realized that this is something that is an intrinsic part of so many cultures. Of course, even in our English language, we say Mother Earth and Mother Nature. In almost all of the languages of the world that have masculine and feminine nouns, the word for earth, the word for nature, is almost always a feminine word. In the Indian Hindu tradition, Shakti is the power, that power that moves the universe, that creative energy. And it is, of course, a feminine energy. And Prakriti, which is that which is created, that which the energy and the power creates, the creation before us, is also a feminine term and a feminine energy. So the relationship between that divine feminine, whether as the power that creates or as that which is created, and our earth, is a relationship that is one that is deep, inherent, and inviolable in every culture, and every religion, and even every language that I know of. And yet today, of course, as we know, our Mother Earth, Mother Nature, is being abused, raped, taken advantage of in all of her forms, in her human form, in her form in nature. And today we have with us beautiful, beautiful leaders of spirit, of the environment, of the wisdom traditions that weave together all of the different aspects of our lives. It's a wonderful, wonderful honor to be here on the stage with them all. The only point I want to mention before I have our Dr. Vandana Shivaji begin is that when we speak about the divine feminine, we're not speaking just about a female material body. That feminine, that energy, that Shakti is something that is just as present, just as available in a male body as in a female body. And so the message and the teaching is not just for those of us who have incarnated in female vehicles, but how those of us in whatever vehicle we have incarnated in can connect with, embody, and bring forth that energy that creates and that sustains. It's a wonderful honor to have our beautiful and divine Dr. Vandana Shiva, a woman of science, of the environment, of spirit, of international fame for protecting not just the earth in general, but the earth at its most fine incarnation, the seed. Vandanaji, please come and
thank you, Sadhvi Bhagwati. And it's a joy for me, too, to be with these amazing women and with all of you, particularly the religious leaders. The word Shakti has been used often. And I'm so glad that Sadhvi Bhagwati touched on what it means. It is the primordial energy of the universe in feminine form. Shak means to act. Shakti is the power to act. And that's why creativity and creation are all her expressions, including nature. Activity is the nature of nature. And that's why nature, in our language, is called Prakriti, the impulse for creation. Nature isn't dead. She never was. She's very alive. There was an illusion for a little while, 250 years precisely, that she's dead matter, to be exploited, mastered over, conquered. But you can't really destroy the primordial energy of this universe. And at one level, every climate disaster, in my view, is the earth speaking. It seems Swami Vivekananda had said that you think you've got me under your control in your fist, but at the end of the day, I decide whether you as a species live or die. And that's the moment we are in, where Shakti and Prakriti and the earth and the divine feminine is saying to the human species, you're under a test. You're under a test to be able to rise to your highest divinity, to be able to deepen your deepest connections with me, or fail that test and go extinct. And the fact that there's so many here at this parliament. And I think this Parliament of World Religions should recognize that the highest religion is a religion that allows us to recognize we are part of Prakriti, and we have the capacity, the potential of Shakti to make the shift. The Parliament of World Religions aren't a set of few major religions, but those amazing traditions that have sustained us and guided us, from the smallest communities that recognize Pachamama and Gaia and Isis and Vasundhara, which is why in India we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasundhara is the earth, Vasudhaiv is of the earth, Kutumbakam is her family. And so much talk about interfaith conflict, impossibility to become one. We are of the earth, we are one. Everything else is illusions we create and divisions we create for control, for mastery. But that's exactly what's taking us to the brink. I've been very fortunate to have participated in so many movements over the last nearly 45 years. And I hope I'll be around for another few decades to serve the earth and to serve community and to protect our forests and our seeds and our rivers. For me, seed protection isn't about a material thing, because the seed is not material. She is the constant renewal of Prakriti. She is the embodiment of Shakti. With this tiny little seed you put in the soil, and she bursts forth, as someone reminded us yesterday. They thought they buried us, they forgot we were seeds. And as seeds of Shakti, there is immense power. I have saved seeds, and I've found seeds that were 40 years old that germinate. Seeds have come out of the pyramids, the kamut wheat that germinates. People have found seeds in ancestral burial sites, and they burst forth. And yet there's an attempt to define it as non-renewable. And the soil and the plants, we're just beginning to find out that a plant isn't a machine. A plant is intelligence, that seed unfolding to its self-organized potential. They're finding out photosynthesis isn't just about a molecule called chlorophyll. It's about amazing communication taking place. And that those roots that do go deep into a living soil are actually the neural network of a plant. I think the big error that has been made with this 250 years of thinking of nature as dead matter is thinking of nature and women as no intelligence. But Shakti is the ultimate intelligence. Prakriti, we won't have creation without intelligence, because creativity, life, is the expression of the ultimate intelligence. And it isn't very intelligent to destroy that intelligence or attempt to destroy it. Our tradition laid it out again and again and again that the earth is alive, our duty is to serve her. And the more we recognize that, the more this panic of growing more food, having more water disappears, because practically, scientifically, spiritually, we can recognize that the more we serve the earth and the more we serve Prakriti, the more she gives us in abundance. The more food we have, that's ecology, that's agroecology. The more we give back to the soil, the more soil we have, the more food we have, the more water we have. Today is World Food Day. For too long, we've discussed world food issues in a culture of scarcity, because that culture was shaped from a leftover of greed. And I talk leftover because only 10% of the corn and soya that's genetically modified is going to humans. The rest is biofuel and animal feed. Only 30% food we eat comes from industrial systems, and it's not food. It's not worthy of being called food. Because food too is divine. And we have a beautiful old ancient Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad, which says the highest dharma is the growing and giving of food in abundance, and the highest sin is failing to grow food and letting people starve around you. And the beautiful thing is, it's not just the Indian traditions, but all traditions recognize that. I once did an interfaith movement on food, and I asked every religion, which was fighting each other for politics and political power, I said, what does your faith tell you about food? Every faith says, feed the hungry. Don't let anyone go hungry. Creativity as the nature of Prakriti is not just part of our tradition. You know, the Pope, and I'm sure Marilyn Evelyn Tucker will talk about the encyclical, but it's been inspired a lot by Sister Hildegard of Bingen. And in the 12th century, this is what she wrote in a patriarchal Catholic church. I am the supreme and fiery force who kindled every living spark, and I breathe forth no deadly thing, yet I permit them to be. I am the fiery life of the essence of God. I flame above the beauty of the fields. I shine in the waters. I burn in the sun, the moon, and the stars. And with the airy wind, I quicken all things vitally by an unseen, all-sustaining life. For the air is alive in the verdure and the flowers. The waters flow as if they lived. The sun too lives in its light. And when the moon wanes, it is rekindled by the light of the sun, as if it lived anew. And to conclude, I'd like to share one of my most inspiring hymns, the Prithvi Shukta from the Atharva Ved. Truth, greatness, universal order, referred to as Rita. Strength, consecration, creative fervor, referred to as tapas. Spiritual exaltation, the sacrifice, support the earth. May this earth, the mistress of that which was and shall be, prepare us for a broad domain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vandanaji. Feed the hungry. That's what the earth is here for. That's what it does. Whether we're hungry for food, whether we're hungry for water, whether we're hungry for air, whether we're hungry for the soil upon which to live. That's what our Mother Earth gives us. And that incredible power of giving to us as the creation, through that power of Shakti, is something which, as Vandanaji said so beautifully, all of the religions tell us. And wouldn't it be so nice if all of the religions could then make the concept of ensuring that the earth is able to continue to feed and to continue to provide, ensuring that were something that she could continue to do. We now have Grove Harris, who has spent so many decades involved actively with issues regarding women, regarding the environment, regarding the earth, both at the United Nations. She was the last Parliament of Religions program director, now on behalf of the Temple of Understanding, who has truly lived her life in this beautiful movement and this beautiful sangama, confluence of the Shakti and the Prakriti and the protection of them both.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here and to be on this panel and this important topic. I wanted to start with some expression of gratitude. And so that's to say thank you to you all for being here. Thank you to the breath that I don't always remember, but that I rely on every single moment. Thank you for the bit of chocolate that added some inspiration before starting this panel. Thank you for the lovely dance sneakers that keep my feet so comfy and cozy while I wander around this huge convention center. Thank you for the food that I've eaten earlier today and for the knowledge that there's food coming my way later. Thanks for the connections that we're doing here. It's dawned on me that we're building resilient community. That's the purpose of this gathering, because we know challenges are coming, but that it's an interfaith network in the United Kingdom, and one of their prime principles was to respond together and stay calm and build on existing networks. That's what they put out as a simple statement in the aftermath of a bombing in London. And I think we need that kind of simplicity as we gather ourselves and prepare. I wanted to talk a little bit about personal practice, because I feel that relationship to the goddess is really, for me, in how the rubber hits the road. And what I've been pondering lately is about how gratitude is a kind of nourishment. And it helps me move from this idea that I don't have enough and that my self-esteem would be enhanced if I had a better outfit to show off for you, or was able to have a better car to pick a woman up on a date, or something that's marketed at us extensively. But in fact, honoring and thanking for what I've got in every moment is really the key practice. So I've lately tried to start doing grace before every meal, but doing it totally spontaneously in that moment with whoever I'm with. A lot of people are a little nervous about, prayer, but this practice of gratitude, I'm convinced, is really important. And it relates to my understanding of how the goddess is with me, because my body is the living body of the goddess. I am who I am, and she is me, and I am her. In my tradition, there's a song to Demeter that when I listen to the song, I hear it both ways, that I am saying it to her and she to me. I am the wealthy one, and all that I am in you, and all that I am depends on you. So my being on this planet depends on a trust in a relationship with the divine, because otherwise my fears and my insecurities get the best of me. And I wish to approach my work, my life, my day in a kind of relaxation that I get from the practice of trust. And it turns out that the origins of the word trust are actually pagan. And it relates to wood, qualities of wood, qualities of steadfastness. Part of the roots of it have to do with being a bowl, which I see as a container for water, for emotion. So I can remain steadfast while my emotions are saying, I'm too afraid to show up. This person isn't going to love me enough. All that kind of stuff. So this kind of steadfastness as a tree, which relates to my name Grove, what can I say? And then with that trust, I also have a practice called the hermeneutic of suspicion, because my spiritual practice is not about being nice all the time. And I learned that from Elizabeth Schuster Fiorenza at Harvard Divinity School, and we are told sometimes stories for nefarious reasons. All advertising wishes to manipulate me. So I need that hermeneutic of suspicion, and I use that in my work at the UN. So I have a spiritual practice and an international environmental practice. And I've been at 5 minutes, so I need to be careful here. I want you to know that you can connect, because we are made to be in connection rather than carrying burdens alone. You can connect to the work of the Mining Working Group at the UN if you are interested in overturning extractive industries. And your contribution could be as simple as signing on to a letter that is being circulated to the United Nations to say we really need the human right to water, or to say that it's not okay that the Sustainable Development Goals that have completed a 3-year process, that the icons for those have been privatized to a media corporation that figured out the logos and is telling us how to market that around the world. And I also just want to say that I also have a community of accountability that is a farm. So I have the privilege of encountering the erotic in the growth of food. And I take pictures of vegetables that are hiding underneath leaves and that are receiving the warmth. And if you don't know that that's erotic, please find opportunities to explore in that direction. I just also want to say that we live in a culture that is based on rape and violence, and there's incredible amounts of guns, and we need to be protecting in some ways ourselves. And the way I look at that is about looking at my powers of yes and my powers of no, and interrogating my own desires without judgment, but actually asking those questions, a hermeneutic of suspicion of myself and my colonized desires within me, the same way I use that hermeneutic looking out. So that way I can be present and non-self-righteous, but clear and taking a divine stance for the life-enhancing behavior moment by moment, as well as calling those structures that threaten life to account. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grove. I want to just very quickly to point out how both Vandanaji and Grove spoke about this myth of scarcity. And even though they spoke about it in different contexts, I think it's one of the most insidious myths that we are all being brainwashed with and indoctrinated by today, whether it's scarcity of material things, whether it's scarcity of love, whether it's scarcity of success. Otherwise, why would someone else's success threaten me? Whether it's scarcity of the food on the planet, the water on the planet, the land on the planet. Every one of our religious traditions speaks only about abundance, only about cups that runneth over, only about us being provided for. And to have both of our first two speakers speak so eloquently and so forcefully about this myth of scarcity has just been so touching to hear. And I think if we all walk out of this parliament with a myth busted, it's going to be a myth of scarcity, and that we know that there is enough, whether it's success, whether it's love, whether it's food, whether it's water. And it's just up to us to live in alignment with that knowledge of abundance. We are very, very fortunate to have with us one of the world's experts on the interaction between religion, faith, and ecology. Dr. Mary Evelyn Tucker is the co-founder and the co-director of the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology. She has written, edited, compiled innumerable articles, books, volumes, compilations on religion and ecology and all of the different various permutations of that she has organized and run during her many, many decades in this field. She has also organized many, many conferences at Yale on religion and ecology. And being in the Ivy League and bringing about not just a class, not just a course, not just one conference, but an entire forum that hosts conferences, compiles publications on this connection, this interlinking between our faith and our earth is something that is so inspiring, and we are so honored to have her with us. Dr. Mary Evelyn Tucker.
Indeed, it's my honor to be here, and I can say, just as I was at Harvard when we began these conferences, I was scared witless because these institutions are institutions of immense power, in case you didn't notice, and navigating through them has been an incredible journey. Not an easy one. To be the first one tenured in some of these departments to come to Yale and have no tenured people in the School of Forestry and Environmental Studies who are women. Very intense experience, which is why I always feel one foot's in academia, but another huge foot is outside of academia, because we need the power of this kind of Shakti, and without it, nothing could be done, quite seriously. So, you know, I speak academia in very different contexts, like Serene saying being nerdy. But you know, we need the power of ideas, too, for this transformation. And what I want to just reflect on are maybe 3 women and 1 man at the end. One of the women is my mother, you know, a woman who actually raised a lot of children, but was one of the most giving women we will ever know. And I suspect many of you have been blessed by that same kind of nurturing. Okay, a nurturing that goes beyond words, knowing when to speak and not to speak, but a nurturing that said to me and to women in my family, you have something to say. And that kind of nurturing is irreplaceable. We've got to encourage it. We've got to honor it. We've got to increase it. 2 other women I want to mention. Every morning I do my qigong, I do my meditation, and I come to my legs, and I try and draw power from 2 women on 2 continents who have exemplified in extraordinary ways. They are now ancestors, but the power of spirituality, of Shakti, and the environment. And that is, in the South American context, Dorothy Stang, who was inspired by liberation theology to resist and empower in the great forests of the Amazon. And she dedicated her life to the peasants of the Amazon who were inflicted by logging, by loss of land, and by the most disruptive processes that this octopus of industrialization has around the world. And she stood for 40 years with those people, and she gave up her life in an assassination in 2005. Dorothy Stang is one of the people who has a Shakti that will live on, I can assure you, because of that sense of empowering others and standing with them. Now, in her case, she was saying, we must not cut down the trees, and she wore a sweatshirt saying, the death of the forest is the death of life. Now, on another continent was Wangari Maathai. Many of us know the power of Wangari. She lit up a room. She lit up lives. And why? Because she was planting trees, just as Dorothy was trying to stop cutting of trees. And the power of her starting the Green Belt movement that empowered women to say, nurture, just as Vandana always speaks of the seeds, and as we've just spoken of trees and food and forests, she helped women to be empowered. 51 million trees have been planted by the Green Belt movement, inspired by Wangari, who herself was inspired by her African roots and her Christian roots. Dorothy Stang was a Christian missionary inspired by liberation theology. These traditions can be reformulated for liberating moments around the world. They are not simply oppressive. They can be, but they can be liberating as they were in these women's lives, because they took the juice of Shakti and they took that sense of land, of trees and forests, and empowered others to protect and preserve. These are in a canon of women who will live on. Now, men are sitting on the back burner in some ways in this conference this morning, but since Vandana also mentioned Francis, the Pope. Now, I want to actually go back 800 years, though, to say there's an energy that's come out of Assisi that I think is transforming the world now in the most historic moment that we have a possibility to go forward with justice and the environment, with ecology, justice, and peace. Why? Because Francis was supported by Claire, and Claire understood what Francis was about. Francis is a wild, shamanistic, intelligent, going guy, just like my husband, I think. But Claire took that, shaped that energy, supported, they worked together. Francis couldn't have done anything without Claire. And if you go to Assisi, you see that. But what I want to bring to our attention is, why is this moment, why is this phenomenon of Pope Francis drawing on this 800-year energy so important, so historic, so transformative, the most transformative moment, I would suggest, for possibility of real change in environment, justice, and peace that we may have in our lifetime? Why? Because he begins the encyclical with Mother Earth. With Mother Earth. The name of the encyclical, Laudato Si, praise be. Now, we have never had a document, UN document, apart from the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, of indigenous peoples from Cochabamba and so on, but there has never been, in an international sensibility, a document that holds Mother Earth before us as that which is sacred and must be protected and nurtured. So I'm going to conclude here with this 800-year-old hymn, and I would say hymn to the cosmos and hymn to Mother Earth, that inspired this encyclical for the environment, inspired this new collaboration of ecology and justice and peace. Praise be. That's what Laudato Si means in the Italian language. It's not Latin. It goes back to an indigenous Italian language, Laudato Si. Praise be, my Lord, through all your creatures, especially through my Lord, brother, Son, who brings the day and you give light through him, and he is beautiful and radiant in all his splendor. Of you, Most High, he bears the likeness. Be praised, my Lord, through sister moon and the stars in the heavens. You have made them bright, precious, and beautiful. Be praised, my Lord, through brothers, wind and air and clouds and storm and all the weather through which you give your creatures sustenance. Be praised, my Lord, through sister water. She is very useful, very humble and precious and pure. Be praised, my Lord, through brother fire, through whom you brighten the night. He is beautiful and cheerful and powerful and strong. Be praised, my Lord, through our sister, Mother Earth, who feeds us and rules us and produces various fruits with colored flowers and herbs. May all our praise be for Mother Earth now and into the future to empower this moment of great transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tucker. May we, here today, be those who the next generation stands up and says, I was inspired. I was inspired by these women, by these men. These planted seeds in fallow ground. These planted seeds of hope and solace in my heart. These protected our forests. These protected my ability and my right to worship the Creator in whatever name, whatever way felt right to me in my life. May we be the ones who at some parliament in the future, people are standing up and saying, these are the ones who inspired me. Our next beautiful speaker is Kieran Bali, who is the global chair of the United Religions Initiative. It's the world's largest and most diverse interfaith network. They are active, I think it's in 90 countries around the world, really harnessing the power of interfaith to bring about, of course, both peace and love and brotherhood and sisterhood, as well as positive change for the future of our planet. Karen.
Respected religious leaders, sisters and brothers, namaste. The divine in me bows to the divine in you. I want to begin by thanking you all for attending today's session and showing your interest and commitment to Mother Earth and the divine feminine. Now, we've been mentioning the divine feminine a lot and will be over the course of this panel. So I want to take this opportunity just to recognize the masculine energy amongst us. And I want to give all of our men or males a round of applause for being here. We don't want you to feel left out, so I wanted to acknowledge that. So we talk about peace with each other, but are we at peace with Mother Earth? I want to ask you to do something. I want to ask you to close your eyes for a moment, please. I want you to think of your mother. From the moment you were born, she held you, she kept you warm, she fed you, she wiped away your tears, loved you day after day, and protected you. Now keep thinking of our beautiful Mother Earth. She has nourished us with flowing waters, an abundance of crops, and sheltering trees. She provides each and every one of us, from the smallest insect to the tallest being, with everything that we need. Our animals, our plants, every being is a creation of God and is sustained by Mother Earth. Just like the one light projects out, think of the colors of the rainbow emanating from that one light, celebrating the diversity we see around us. Now please open your eyes. Aren't we just blessed? In our daily lives, we see the beauty around us. We see nature. We see the beauty of animals. Those animals that we put into our lap and we stroke. And we see animals on whom we may run a mile if we came across them. But these are all the beautiful diversity that we have amongst us. And everybody is nurtured by the Mother Nature. The sweetness of the roses we smell. These are all gifts from Mother Nature. But my dear friends, our Mother Earth, our treasure, she's dying, she's crying, she's asking for love. I cannot make these words sound sweet. Our mother's lungs, the trees, are being cut down at the rate of 1 acre per second. That's 5 acres gone. As her lungs are failing, so is the life around her. Let us not mention the pain of her heart. Her waters have been polluted to the extent that nobody can drink them. People are becoming ill by drinking dirty water, resulting in disease and death. That is where water is available nearby. There are women who are traveling up to 8 hours a day just to fetch water. They're bringing back big buckets of water on their heads, sometimes weighing up to 22 kilograms. Now, my suitcase was around that weight, and I am so glad I was able to check that in, because there is no way I could carry that around on a long journey. And this is women who have left their children at home to go and get water. It is us human beings who are abusing our Mother Earth. We cannot blame anyone else. We talk about injustice amongst human beings, but what about this injustice that our Mother Earth is suffering? We all talk about peace and justice, but are we translating our words into actions? Are we creating that lasting change that we're all hoping for? We can talk and talk about the divine feminine power, but are we returning the unconditional love that Mother Earth is giving us? So I want to conclude now. I want to ask you to put your hand on your heart. I'd like you to pledge your love to Mother Earth. Say thank you to Mother Earth. And we won't stop there, because we know we can talk forever. We want to make a pledge. We're going to take 3 steps. Let's promise to take step 1. We will work to save our mother's resources and dignity. Step 2, we will educate others in our communities on things like recycling. Step 3, we will purchase ethically. Only then can we transform the life of our Mother Earth and continue to receive that unconditional love from who we all refer to as the ultimate feminine power. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen. It is now a wonderful honor and a wonderful joy to introduce Marianne Williamson, who is probably one of the most, perhaps the most, clear and powerful vessels and channels for the voice of Shakti that I have ever had the great fortune to be in the presence of. Her life and her work is a fantastic and awe-inspiring union of spirit and action, both in what she embodies as well as in what she inspires. Without taking even another moment, it's a wonderful honor to have Marianne with us, and I just actually do want to take another moment and express my gratitude to her, because she was not originally on this panel and has so lovingly and graciously agreed at the last minute to join us before catching her flight out of Salt Lake tonight. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My own mother lived into her late 80s. I had the experience that all of us who have had elderly parents have had, that transition from the one who took care of you when you were, as was so eloquently already described here today, when you were a baby and could not take care of yourself, when you were young and vulnerable and could not take care of yourself. My mother, as well as my father, took care of me. And then when your parents become elderly and you see how that relationship of power changes, and they often need us to take care of them the way they used to take care of us. And as fiercely as my mother took care of me when I was small, that fiercely I tried to take care of her. And particularly faced with some of the ways that, at least in my country, the elderly are not treated as well, I believe, as they should be, there were certainly times with medical personnel and with others around whom I felt a fierce uprising of my own emotion. Do not mess with my mother. I'd like a little bit of historical context here. Industrialization, the Industrial Revolution began in the late 1800s, first in England, then brought to the United States. Industrialization has been both a blessing and a curse. As a gift that has been both blessing and curse from the Western world that now, of course, is so much a part of the bones of world civilization. Industrialization, like any material power, is neither holy nor unholy. Its holiness or lack of holiness is totally predicated on its purpose. That which is used for purposes of creation, for purposes of healing, for purposes of growth, for purposes of goodness and holiness and beauty, which industrialization certainly can be, and which in that sense is very much needed for the kind of protection and furtherance of the earth that we need today, then to that extent industrialization is holy. When industrialization, however, has been used, as it has been in far too many cases, to serve the purposes of devolution and the purposes of domination, the purposes of greed, and the purposes of destruction, then it is unholy. So when we look at how industrialization so much has been used as an instrument of the destruction of Mother Earth and the destruction of the planet and the inhabitants of the planet, we need to look at how it came to be that the consciousness of the world would allow industrialization to be used as a servant of man in mankind's domination of the earth. And for that, we need to go back, actually, to pagan culture. And you see something very tragic that occurred, not only for that period of time, but for our period of time as well. And that had to do when the early church destroyed systematically pagan culture. And when it did so, one of the reasons it chose to do so was because of a particular aspect of pagan culture, which was not only the power of women, but also, quite significantly, the power used by women at that time to foster in the consciousness of the women that they knew to recognize themselves in divine partnership with nature. These women, often called witches or wise women, held aloft through ritual, held aloft through speech, held aloft through their practices, a consciousness of divine partnership between humanity and the rivers, between humanity and the sky, between humanity and the earth, between humanity and the waters. With the destruction of pagan culture, and one of the reasons for the destruction of pagan culture was because in early Christendom, there was the replacement, the destruction of that paradigm where humanity is seen in divine partnership with nature, replaced by early Christendom with the paradigm that says God has given man dominion over the earth. And that was the beginning of our environmental crisis. And therefore, as industrialization emerged, it was granted immunity, it was granted permission, it was granted protection by the very force that told it, go out, dominate the earth. God allows you to do so. And so what has occurred now, as we know, is a destruction not only unprecedented, but a destructiveness which now challenges us to not only end the destruction, but to end it quickly. Now, just as Earth has an ecosystem, the human psyche has an ecosystem. And when you say to a mother, I love you, but your children I don't care about so much, no mother will respond positively to that. So Mother Earth lives to give food to its inhabitants, lives with its waters and with its ground and with its sky to nurture and nourish its inhabitants. So when you violate the children of the earth, when you violate the species of the earth, you are violating the earth. Now, when it comes to the particular destructiveness of the earth, when it comes to food, when it comes to what has happened to the air, when it comes to what has happened with climate change, we are now facing a situation where not only are we morally responsible for taking care of our mother, but we must do so very, very quickly, because you can just go so many generations messing with your food supply before it's over. You can only go so many generations messing with your earth before it's over. Now, this is very difficult, particularly for women, because as women, we want to be the peacekeepers, we want to be the nurturers, we want to be the nourishers, but it is also important for us to remember that the divine feminine is fierce when you mess with her children. The divine feminine is fierce when you mess with her children, and as those of us who have had elderly parents know, we are fierce also when you mess with our parents. So don't mess with my babies and don't mess with my mother. Now, we are here forgetting sometimes that the religious part of the religious power is religion gives us power of endurance, and it gives us power of patience, gives us comfort, and should give us encouragement. Here in my country, the abolitionist movement arose from the Quakers. Many of the leaders of the suffragette movement were Quakers. Martin Luther King emerged from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference because religion should give us the courage to resist that which must be resisted. Religion gives us the courage both to stand and state what we find intolerable, and also gives us the miraculous authority that comes from knowing that in God all things are possible. So we must know, as has been stated here already today, that true religious power is a power to own our no as well as own our yes. And as nice as it is to just talk about the nice stuff of religion and the peace and the love, you're not really talking the religious impulse until you are willing to say no where no must be said. And in order to protect our divine earth, in order to protect our Mother Earth, ladies and gentlemen, we need to do more than recycle. In order to protect our divine mother, and once again, we don't have time to waste. We must be willing to tell truth to power, because it is the power systems of the earth that threaten to destroy our earth. And what does that mean? That means telling truth to Monsanto. It means telling truth to Shell Oil. It means telling truth to Exxon. It means telling truth to Halliburton. It means telling truth to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It means telling truth, learn this from you, it means telling truth to all those who would protect a system by which major multinational corporate powers, whether they are fossil fuel companies or chemical companies, whether Monsanto or Dow or Syngenta, or it doesn't matter who they are, as long as we countenance a system in which they can buy politicians, at least in the United States, then we can talk all we want about our love of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is not fooled. We're not doing enough for her, and we're not doing it fast enough. So the esteemed people such as Dr. Shiva, who have been teaching us for years, who have been demonstrating what it means to tell truth to power as a way of protecting the forces that not only threaten Mother Earth, but threaten her children and threaten its inhabitants. I believe that for us truly to do our part in love of the Divine Mother, we must now channel the Divine Mother. And she's gentle when times are calling for us to be gentle. And she is loving at all times. But love, real love, has the capacity to say no as well as yes. And the Divine Mother, just like the human mother, is gentle with you until you mess with her kids. And right now, there are people who are messing with the earth and messing with divine inhabitants. The reason so many women, I'm a Westerner, I'm an American, I cannot speak about other countries, but this parliament is happening in my country. So I do have something to say about something I know is happening here. American women, in many cases, we have rampant depression. We are depressed because we know something is wrong. Religion has given its power to genuinely comfort over to psychotherapy. The psychotherapy profession has now abdicated its power to comfort to pharmaceutical companies, so that we have a pharmaceutical psychotherapeutic industrial complex. And I say this because if women are going to stand up now, it is because we own how much we hurt. This is not the time to be numb. If you are looking at the state of the world and the state of the earth today and not grieving and not depressed, you're not looking. But from a religious perspective, if you are not rejoicing in the power of the possible given to us as we listen to the voice for God within us, then you are not yet owning the power of the miraculous. So this is not a time to be numb. This is the time to experience what Paul Hawken calls blessed unrest. The women of the world must rise now. Yes, gentle when we can be gentle, but fierce, which is a face of the feminine as well. And all of us say, not only with our human parents, but with the earth itself, don't mess with my mother. Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Although time seemed to stand still, we actually have a blessed few minutes left for any questions or any comments that people would have with our incredible Shakti-filled leaders. The only request is that they actually be questions to the leaders rather than just individual lectures, because we don't have enough time for that. So specific questions from our beautiful Shakti leaders. Yes. Would you all be willing to do this again next year?
It's only every 5 years.
Wonderful. So the idea has been given for a women's parliament every 2 years. Yes. Wonderful. Yes. Oh, sorry.
I have taught at Princeton. Princeton wouldn't know what hit it.
How fun.
It's called Pretense and Power. It exists at all the Ivy Leagues, in case you didn't notice. That's why we have to infiltrate. Yeah.
Yes. Do you think Mother Earth can heal herself?
Yes, there are two ways Mother Earth heals herself. One, by getting rid of the species that's messing with her. And second, her processes of healing. I work with the soil, I work with seed, I work with biodiversity. You give it a chance, you let it be. Forests come back. Integrated soils, fertility comes back. So I think we need to give up the arrogance that Mother Earth needs us. We need to serve her as our service to belong to her family.
I'd like to add to that something. This idea, this fact, that if it gets bad enough, Mother Earth will just get rid of us. I'd like to stay with that for a moment. First of all, really take in what that means. I have had environmentalist friends say to me, don't worry, Marianne, if it gets too bad, nature will just kick us off for 250,000 years. The Earth will be okay. I've heard people chuckle at that. It's not something to chuckle about if you consider the immeasurable amount of human suffering that would accompany such an occurrence. And so I believe that when Dr. Shiva said that, we need to really take in what that means. And I believe that if we do, it increases in us our absolute sense of the urgency of the moment. We must find it absolutely unacceptable that we take that route.
And let me just follow up by saying 20,000 people washed away in our region, in Uttarakhand, 2013. Orissa supercyclone, 1999, 30,000 people dead. And you just multiply to Cyclone Helen, just go through the droughts, go through the 9 million people uprooted in Lake Chad as the water shrunk, the 1 million who began as the displaced in Syria and now are 11 million refugees. We are talking about real trends. In addition, we know that if we do our bit, we recognize that we depend on the earth and she is our mother. All the panicky climate change, we can solve it through bringing carbon back into the soil, pulling it out of the atmosphere, doing the right thing, knowing her cycles, knowing her laws, and respecting them, rather than the laws that come from the Shells and the Monsantos. And I think the big challenge for all religions for the next 5 years is going to be to challenge corporate personhood as an ethical imperative, to challenge patenting of life as if corporations are creators and inventors of life, and to challenge the idea that freedom is the right to push species, you call them children, to extinction, human beings to extinction, just for a few years of profit. That is unethical and immoral, and no religion should take it lying down. I think this is the time to spend a lot of time to think of what do the different religions say to deal with greed, brute force, power that harms the earth and humans.
We should get more questions.
Yeah, more questions.
I just want to make sure we know things like it's been charted how the United States can state by state go off of fossil fuels within about 20 years. So we have the technologies in order to make the kind of changes we need. I heard a really inspiring idea lately. I don't know whether it's going to pan out to be true, but it's about new technology to plant billions of trees. A guy at NASA has this idea about germinating the seeds and using technologies of Google mapping to be able to put them where they need to go, and helping make the labor of women that have been planting trees individually much more efficient to take tree planting to a scale that we've never even thought about. So we have to have hope about possibilities.
You still need the women to take care of the tree.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And very briefly, of course mother can heal herself, but when she has all her children with her, why should she have to? What we can do is stop giving her so many wounds, and that will help the healing process.
Yes. How important do you think the next election is going to be with regard to what we've been talking about?
In the United States.
Do you mean the American election? This next election in the United States is one of the most important things, not only for us, but globally. Because regardless who wins the nomination of the Republican Party, and regardless who wins the nomination of the Democratic Party, one party stands for deregulating corporate power and inviting oil companies and chemical companies to do what they wish. I'm not saying the Democrats are perfect. President Obama, for some reason, supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but more than not, and certainly given that both primary leaders, both Clinton and Bernie Sanders, oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership, if you are interested in the things that we are talking about here, then be very, very clear. The basic agenda of the Republican Party does not, and more often than not, although not always, but far more often than not, the Democratic Party supports the things we are talking about here.
Yes.
I love that.
We can take care. We can do this. It's about our self-worth. We're not submissive anymore. We're not dependent anymore. We are being nurtured by a woman who is elderly, and we are now the adults that have to take care of her. I'm never going to say I'm a child of God. I'm an adult of God. Can we change the metaphor?
Can we change the metaphor from children of God to adults of God?
Of course, but we have to change it so it includes all world religions. The religions of Buddhism and the religions of Hinduism and Confucian, they don't speak necessarily about God. But I want to just interject. So I love what you say, of course. But what I want to interject into this is that even behind the political morass that we have is an incredible sensibility that pervades, and I would say is pernicious, and that is that science, reductionist science, dominates. And if we don't address that problem, we are still in trouble, because politicians don't even understand it. And I will say, I'm at the oldest environment school in the country, at Yale. Scientists for 10 years have not even spoken to me, because I represent a different and alternative metaphor. You cannot mention the word spirituality, religion, much less Shakti, within those halls. So we have a problem, because every next generation is being trained in a completely dualistic sensibility, which is why we have our addictions and our deep sense of distress and despair, because we do not have a unifying story. Thomas Berry would call it a new story. It can be told in many, many different ways, as Brian Swim and others have done. But that incredible divide must be identified, must be addressed, and must be overcome, because the arrogance of science in its reductionist mode is also destroying the earth.
Very last question. Yes. Power, privilege, commitment, and accountability, particularly in the Western world.
Well, I think the whole power of this session is to show that the real power is Shakti. And accountability is being aligned with Shakti, being aware of her, being alive to the universal power. And all the petty powers that use brute force and violence, because all petty powers must use violence to dominate, that will never be accountable till we rise, till we resist. And let's not forget, one of the forms of the goddess is Durga.
Sadly, we are actually out of time. This has been, I know for all of us, an experience of not just being taught, but actually being deeply touched and deeply transformed with all of the elements of the Shakti. We've had, in the course of the last little bit hour plus, the healing and nurturing sense of the mother, of the Shakti. And we've had the fierce aspect of the Shakti that empowers each of us to act with that fierceness, and rather, I should say, implores each of us to act with that fierceness. But it's important to realize that all of these aspects actually are aspects of the same Shakti. And so as we take this transformation out, as we bring forth that fierce power, let us remember that it's rooted in the power of creation. That, of course, in the cycle, preserves as well as destroys, but that the energy is an energy of creation, that which brings forth creation as well as that which embodies creation. Because the Prakriti is not only that which is outside of us, it's not only our trees and mountains and rivers and forests, but we are also Prakriti. Our bodies, our minds. And so just as we harness that power of nurturing, of love, and of fierce truth in what we look at, what we remove, what we change, what we fight for in the outer world, so we also use it on the inner world, so that we may all become not just activists and not just people who are out there raising our voices, but actually vessels for that power. Because although we need to raise our voice, although we need to not take it anymore, we need to do so effectively. It's not just about raising our voices to raise our voice, shouting to shout, fighting to fight. It's about actually doing it to bring about change. And in order to be effective agents of change, we need to first allow that change, all aspects of it, to take place within us. Fantastic. Marianne is going to give our concluding words, and then our leaders, our women Shakti leaders, will be coming down to where we have a globe for a very special, just 1-minute ritual. It's a water blessing ceremony. I'll explain this briefly and then let Marianne close. All over the world, our brothers and sisters, our mothers, our children are suffering and perishing in far greater numbers than those who are suffering and perishing from violence in the name of religion, from terrorism, from crime, are suffering and perishing due simply to lack of clean water, lack of safe, sufficient water. And so it's a special ritual of offering the water of the sacred rivers onto the globe with a prayer and a blessing that this water may nourish, nurture, and touch the lives of all of our family in human form, in animal form, and in natural form across the planet.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I want to correct any misimpression that I gave when the question came about this presidential election. Richard Nixon started the Environmental Protection Agency, and he was a Republican president. So traditionally, some of our greatest environmentalists and champions of the environment have been Republican. So when I said what I said, I meant about this election cycle and the particular segment that has sort of taken over. But it bears notice. So I wanted to make that very clear, because traditionally the Republican Party, this is only a very new phenomenon where there is this. That's number one, what I wanted to say. Number two, the question about privilege and power is basically the question of empire. Empire emerges when we talked about before about how Christianity, early Christianity, gave humanity the sense that they were given by God the power over. If you've read Riane Eisler, she talks about the partnership model and the dominator model. Empire comes from dominator model. Racial inequality comes from dominator model. Misogyny comes from dominator model. It is the idea that anyone has the power over anyone or anything. When it comes to empire, whether it was the Romans or the British or, unfortunately, economically now, the American, empires do fall. And they always think that they cannot fall, but history proves that they always fall. Empire is so counter to the way of nature, it is unsustainable. And I feel, whether we're talking about nature or politics, the word unsustainable is not ugly enough. Unsustainable means we will die if this continues. And it's part of our arrogance that we somehow think that could not happen to us. However, what is the religious message here? This is why this gathering is so beautiful. There is creation and there is miscreation. when it comes to the environment, when it comes to race, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to misogyny, when it comes to many things, humanity has miscreated. But God has placed into the ecosystem of humanity, expressed in all the great religions of the world, that we can atone. We can, what words you use, confess our sins, humbly say to God, we are sorry. God does not punish us. We are punished not because of our sins, but by our sins. It is our own karma and our own actions that would bring about the terrible destructiveness by Mother Nature. So I would like to offer, as a way for us to conclude this session, a prayer in which we say to God how sorry we are that we have allowed things to get this bad. How sorry we are on behalf of our nations, on behalf of our own individual countries, to whatever extent we live in countries where we feel that the social or economic or political policies of our individual countries might have conspired. And given the world we live in today, I think we all have individual confession and atonement to make to God in our hearts for the ways that we know we have been willing to conspire for convenience sake with systems that we know are destructive to someone on the other side of the earth or to the earth itself. And so I think that a good way for us to conclude this is for us to not only say a prayer of atonement on behalf of our entire species, but also to ask for guidance for how each of us, in our own ways, in our own countries, in our own realms of influence, might be the light that shall cast out this darkness, might be the disruption that will interrupt this current trajectory, and will be the adults who, as children of an elderly mother who needs us, show up for her as she has shown up for us. Let's pray. Dear God, in this place where your name can be freely mentioned, in this place where we do not invalidate or dismiss you, in this place where we honor you as a higher authority, we enter into the sacred place where you are inside us. And on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of our nations, and behalf of our species, we atone. We are sorry that we have countenanced the disruption of your natural patterns. We are sorry that we have hurt the earth. We apologize for every time we allowed fracking to occur, for every time that we have allowed any kind of disruption of your nature to occur. And we pray, knowing that you are a God of infinite mercy, we now pray that our humble apology and prayers for forgiveness, knowing that your hand shall be upon us as we do humble ourselves before you to so apologize, to so atone for our mistakes. We now pray for your blessing upon the earth. We now pray for your mercy upon the people of the earth. We atone for our miscreations. And would you, dear God, now use us as you use those of us in all of our areas of life where we have made mistakes. You deliver us from the ashes of the terrible damage that we sometimes do, and lift us up more powerful and more positive than we ever were before. And so, dear God, the earth needs a miracle. Dear God, humanity needs a miracle. We need your Shakti. We need your miraculous breakthrough. And we surrender ourselves on this day. Use us. Make us conduits of your power. Make us channels of your strength. We give to you all that we have and all that we are. Use our hands and use our feet. Use our mouths, use our minds, and use our hearts, that we might be the men and women you need us to be, to do what you need us to do. And through this power, dear God, your power within us, may we save our children and our children's children. May we save the earth, and may we save ourselves. In this moment and on this day, we remember that Through you, this and all things are possible. With praise and with thanks, we all say, amen.
And so it is. As we have to clear the stage in the room, we will move over for our final ritual of the water blessing ceremony.